Hi there, good afternoon, good morning rather. This is Chartbusters. This is a show where we highlight the buzzing stocks of the day, get you expert advice on how to capitalize and trade on those stocks. I'm Mangna Malu. With me is Nigel D'Souza. Nigel, looks like a good morning so far. 1/3% on the Nifty. Mid-caps roaring ahead. Two stocks in the green for one in the red. More importantly, ahead of expiry, we're above that 11,800 mark. Yesterday, we crossed it, couldn't sustain above it. And I was looking at the 11,800 put. That's the one that should come up for you. Close to around 15 lakh shares added out there, 16 lakh shares on the short side. So the bulls believe, okay, after 11,700 yesterday, 11,800 is something that we can conquer and sustain up until the next 2 days.
Well, interesting, Mangala. Good to see second session running. The Indian markets are outperforming after underperforming in 2019, as well as in this month itself. We have been underperformers, but the last couple of days have been good. Stocks like Sun Pharma as well have moved high. I think there was a CLSA note early this morning. They were quite positive on the on the company. That stock's moved to the high point of the day, so that's been a while actually. I think it's important to see what happens in the next couple of days, because it could be a lot of the shorts are getting squeezed out, and from Friday we'll return to the normal course of action. So whether or not this is just an expiry phenomena that's playing out, well, only time will tell. For the time being, the bulls will say, what the hell, we are 125 points up from yesterday's low. So good going. As you said, the 11,800 put, that's seeing some build up. So that, I think the premium was around 35-40 rupees approximately. So I guess they're betting on the 11,750 holding out at least in the near term.
Absolutely. That's the lower level, Nigel. 11,850 with the 20-day moving averages. That is something we'll be watching out for as well, because while the Nifty is still holding higher, a couple of stocks, the heavyweights, they're coming off the highs. In fact, TCS at the low point of the day, Reliance has come off the highs, and we have ITC, a fair weight on the index as well, at the low point of the day. So we'll see what happens in the second half of this trade and tomorrow as well. First up, all the top stories. DHFL defaults the second time in the last 1 month, fails to honor its repayment of dues on commercial papers. The company managed to pay 150 crore rupees, which is 40% of the outstanding dues. Intends to pay the balance 225 crore rupees in the next couple of days.
And IFCI surges as the board approves corporate business plan of proposed sale of shareholding in National Stock Exchange of India and other divestments.
SBI Life surges as Deutsche Bank maintains its buy rating on the stock. The management remains bullish on achieving higher growth in FY20. Company expects the value of new businesses margin to expand by 100 basis points.
And Pyramid Enterprises is under some pressure after ICRA downgrades Pyramid Cap and Housing Finance rating to AA from AA plus with a negative outlook. Okay, how to trade the Nifty from here? We've had a good couple of days itself. So yesterday we put on 100 points. Today I think the Asian markets, they were trading in the red, most of them trading flattish with a bit of a negative bias. Overnight the handover wasn't great from Wall Street, but the Nifty is in the green, so telling us that, well, we're playing catch up, or at least for the time being we're outperforming what the Asian markets are doing. Ashwini Gujral joins us currently. What would your trade be at around this 11,820 odd mark?
See, my sense is that we were correcting for the last many sessions, and around the 50-day moving average, we have found support. And yesterday onwards, you can say that the market is now finding buying on dips. And today, good strong opening, but if we can sustain current levels, chances are that you will see further buying and short covering as we go into the expiry. So that way, this is a good time to get long on Nifty as well as Bank Nifty, and chances are that post afternoon we could actually move higher, because there is a bit of pressure on the downside, but not really enough. Having said that, HDFC Bank is a buy with a stop of 24.20, target of 24.60. Voltas is a buy with a stop of 6.50, target of 6.75. And Adani Port is a buy with a stop of 400, target of 4.25.
Ashwini, was looking at Cadila Healthcare. In fact, suddenly as we speak, some of the pharmaceutical stocks have started to move higher. Cadila is at the high point of the day. Wockhardt starting to move higher. We had Sun Pharma as well from the frontline space, high by about 3.5%. Anything that's a buzz there, or maybe stay away?
See, you have to stay away because these guys, they move one day and then go down for 3 days. They are all oversold, which means that they are trading way below their 200-day moving averages. So, you know, just some short covering, etc. I don't think there's much going on there.
Right, Ashwini, thanks a lot for that. We will keep coming back to you through the course of this day. With that, we shift focus to the corporate on our radar. Right now, we have Thomas Cook. That's the stock on our radar. Yesterday, remember, the stock moved higher by about 4.5%. And just as we speak, the stock holding up in the green. Madhavan Menon, who's the chairman and the MD of the company, joins us to discuss the outlook for the company. Mr. Menon, thank you for joining in. We're coming closer to the end of the first quarter, which is the most important quarter for you, usually given the summer vacations, etc. But this time around, there were a fair amount of disruptions. There was this consumer slowdown, airfare prices had risen, there was that election as well. So in that environment, what sort of growth did you witness in the first quarter, and how does that shape up for the rest of this year?
So good morning to you. I think we've been extremely lucky to miss out on some of these headwinds. If we look at our travel, that is the leisure travel, which is one of the important metrics that we follow, year to date, we've grown 22% over last year. This essentially represents people who've traveled on holiday, and you'll appreciate June is our peak travel period. If you look at forward bookings, and we are at the end of the booking season, we are still 16% over last year, and my expectation is that we will continue to see demand. Now, this goes against all the news of slowing down in consumer spending. We have not seen it as yet. I don't know whether we will see some of that effect flow into September and all the way through December. But right now, despite the headwinds, let's say, of higher fares due to the jet ceasing to exist, we've seen some fares, but fortunately, I'm also glad to report that these fares are coming off right now, and in reality, both domestic and international fares have stabilized.
Well, Mr. Menon, as you said, you've been lucky even in this sort of, headwinds. You have managed to grow, and you're reporting quite a decent, healthy growth as well for the first couple of months. And there are plenty of headwinds, mind you. It's not just consumer spending. We are tracking President Trump's Twitter handle as well, what he has to say with regard to Iran. That's what's, disrupting the globe on the whole, as well as you said, the aviation crisis. That's something that's playing out as well. For the year on the whole, what kind of a growth number are you looking at? You said for the first couple of months, it's at around 20-22%, if I got that right.
Yeah. So, we don't give guidance, but let me just mention this, that our destination management business, which is tourists coming into India, has performed very well this year. That has got nothing to do with all the headwinds that we're facing locally. As far as the foreign exchange business, we've actually seen a 21% growth in our volumes over last year, especially in the retail space. And a lot of that has come in terms of billings of our prepaid card, which is a card that we issue ourselves. On the leisure side, my expectation is that we will continue to register double-digit growth through the rest of this year, 20% upwards, looking at what we've registered so far as well as the forward demand. The other space which we've seen a fair amount of activity is in the meetings and incentive, which we call MICE. That is driven partially by the World Cup. Because we have various corporates taking their dealers to World Cup matches that India is playing. So the largest one we've witnessed so far is the one in Manchester. But looking at the MICE business, we're still seeing demand through the next quarter. Again, quarter 4 of the current calendar year is something that I'm not willing to predict at this stage, because I think we will see some effect of the consumer slowdown at that point.
All right, Mr. Menon, the buzzword on a day-to-day basis is the World Cup, and we are cheering for our boys in blue.
No, actually, I'm more, jealous, if you must, envious of the corporates who are taking all their people to the World Cup. So maybe we can...
It's appraisal time. I'm waiting for my appraisal letter. Let's move on.
Nobody's taking me. I constantly
No one's
keep
taking us
fishing
either,
for
sir. That's why we're here.
invitations,
Mr.
But nobody
Menon,
takes me for the World Cup.
I'll tell you what, Mangalam and me will call you post that show, and we'll make a plan maybe for the World Cup finals. All three of us will be there.
Thank you.
Cheering for India,
when
hopefully.
Virat lifts the cup. So we'll talk
Perfect.
about that later post the show. For the time being, tell us, what's the breakup of inbound business as well as outbound business?
Look, outbound is obviously in our travel space is the largest. Inbound is significant. So if I were to compare just inbound and outbound, and I don't think that's the correct way to do it because there are other segments that we do. But if I were to take just the inbound and the outbound, I think inbound will be about 40% of that subset, and leisure travel and MICE will be 60% put together.
All right, leisure travel and MICE would be 60% and inbound 40%. I was looking through this summer report that you've released, and out there, one thing that stood out was growing appetite for travel loans, which was high by around 50 to 60%. Now, Mr. Menon, we've been speaking to you for a lot of time, and every time we ask you whether you're interested in an NBFC license, you say no, you're happy with Forex. But with this emerging trend, are you not tempted to go ahead and provide some travel loans as well?
Not at all. I think this is not a business we necessarily understand. We've got other members of the group. In the Fairfax group, we have investments in IIFL and other companies, and we leave it to these guys to figure out how they do it. I must admit that I believe that the NBFCs service us much better than we try to do this on our own, because we just don't have the ability, and I think we would stretch our focus from what we do well by getting into the NBFC space.
All right, Mr. Menon, I want to ask you about the new acquisition you did, the digital photo business. What's the targets out there? How's that shaping up in the first year? What sort of a number you're looking at? Maybe in a 3-year time horizon, you must be having some targets in mind as well? Yeah. So for the financial year ended 20, my expectation is that they will contribute approximately 40 crores to our bottom line. In the financial year ended 21, that number will go up to about 53 crores. And then the financial year ended 22, I don't remember, but it's further growth. My expectation is that this business will just continue to grow significantly, and it's a new area, though photography is not. But they're expanding into new markets, and they've just
40 crore on the top line or 40 crore on the bottom line, Mr. Menon?
The Atlantis bottom line, on the bottom line of the consolidated numbers, Mangalam, we will add 40 crores. I'm also happy to report that they've just been awarded the contract for the Atlantis in Barbados. We have the Atlantis in Dubai, where we have the sole rights. We're now moving into Barbados. We're tendering for places like Disney Shanghai and the Beijing Universal Parks. And I've just been out in China over the last week, and it's unbelievable the volumes that these people go through. Just to give you an idea, the Disney Shanghai does 80,000 packs a day in peak time. This vastly outpaces what even Disney in Orlando does.
All right, so that will take your...
So our expectations are that DEI will contribute.
All right, that will take your bottom line much higher. In fact, the revenue when you acquired the business for 2018 was close to around 460 crores. The EBITDA was 42 crores. So let's see what you are, aspiring for out there. And another interesting thing, you've been acquiring a lot of companies, and one of the travel companies, Cox & Kings, it's seen a sharp decline from 200 plus rupees, the stock price around 50 rupees. Do you, as a person of the industry, know what's wrong out there with the company? What exactly is happening? And if there is nothing wrong, then does it not make an interesting bet for you to go ahead and purchase it?
So in all fairness, I don't think I should comment on what's going on with a competitor. I honestly don't understand what is happening. They are a competitor. They do deliver services which are very credible, and I hope they come out of whatever they're facing. But I think in the long term, this industry provides vast opportunities, which is why we're seeing all sorts of players trying to enter the space. So my expectation is that Cox & Kings will find its feet in some form or the other for whatever they're facing and come back.
Is there a possibility that Cox & Kings is struggling? That's why Thomas Cook will do better?
No, I hope not.
All right.
No, I don't think we focus on Cox & Kings ourselves. So,
okay.
There's enough competition out there to worry about.
All right, Mr. Menon, thanks so much for joining in. We'll keep cheering our boys in blue, and you took us across the globe.
Thank you very much.
You took us to West Indies and Dubai in the last 10 minutes odd.
Yeah.
So we'll find it hard to concentrate, but we'll have to get going with the show. Thanks so much for joining in. Looking forward to speaking to you after your quarter
We'll
one
talk
numbers.
about this after the show.
Absolutely. All right. On that note, then we'll wrap up that interview. We'll slip into a short break. You come back. DHFL and Reliance Infra, their stocks on our radar. More details when we return.